Just recently, we got the news that the Harry Potter HBO show had officially started production for its first season, and as part of that, they've given us a little photo of the kid who plays Harry all dressed up in his Hogwarts costume to get people excited for the show early. We'll see if they can maintain that hype. But today we'll talk through that photo and see what we can find, and I guess we'll talk about a bunch of the castings that I never really got around to making a video about. Okay, so let's jump into it, shall we? As I said, we'll start off with the photo of Dominic, and yeah, here it is for those that haven't seen it. Harry in his Hogwarts uniform after having been sorted into Gryffindor. Man, when I first saw it, this just got me so hyped up. I mean, yeah, say what you will about rebooting the franchise for a fresh adaptation, but it really is such a nostalgia hit. I did see a bunch of people hating on this kid, of course, which is very depressing. Why do people suck so much? I hope none of these kids end up getting the Jake Lloyd treatment from Star Wars The Phantom Menace, where you have adults teeing up on this little boy. But it does seem that people are trash no matter the decade. Yes, not every child actor is going to be your cup of tea, I get it, but some of the things that people say are legitimately insane and wildly cruel. It's not about the acting quality or anything of the sort, just degenerates calling the poor kid ugly or other equally cruel and depraved things. I hope the kid remains well insulated from all the ugliness forever, although I guess as he gets older, there's no chance of that. Lovely. I hope he can remain well adjusted throughout this whole thing, and all the other kids too. Anyway, onto the photo itself. Immediately I was zooming in on that scar. As compared to the films, or really any illustrations, it looks like an actual scar. In the film it looked a bit more supernatural, being a red lightning bolt, but here it looks like something he could have feasibly gotten in a car crash. I like that when you zoom in, you can see that there's this glossy, patchy skin surrounding it, almost like it's a burn. And I think that'll add to the whole effect of it burning in pain when he's near Voldemort. At first I was thinking it was weirdly off-center, but then when I googled it and went on the wiki, apparently this is where the scar's supposed to be. In one of the books he's described as having pain above his right eye when the scar flares up, so I guess I was wrong in that instance. I do find it funny that one of the big points of his characterization early on is trying to hide that scar though, right? Yet here, he just has his hair swept completely off it. I know, you want to be able to see the iconic feature, just found it funny. Then we come to the costume. The glasses will never not be funny, because once you notice they have no lenses, it's all you can see. It would happen at times during the movie as well, where out of nowhere your eyes would hone in and it would be so deeply obvious that these were just wire frames with no lenses in them. Made it very funny at times. Obviously sometimes there would be lenses, but when there weren't, it looked goofy as hell. Same vibe here, it's just a bit silly. It's not anything that makes it unwatchable or overly ridiculous, it's just goofy. Then the costume itself, the uniform. Not gonna lie, but the robe here kind of looks cheap. Might just be me, but there's just something about it. Looks like cheap black drapes from somebody's home cinema room. I did like that if you zoom in, you can see that there's trimming on the robe. It's just a nice touch. Then we come to the jumper and the tie, looking like a classic schoolboy. Once again, people online, not all of them, but a vocal portion, have been having a conniption the kids aren't wearing full robes like they're monks or something, complete with the black pointed hats. Let's be real though. I know it fits the vibe in the books, but on screen that would be so silly. Too silly to take seriously in any meaningful way, and you know it. I really don't get why, of all the possible things, this is the one thing I see so often. Let it go. It would look ridiculous and stupid. I think the tie and the jumper just makes sense. Also, I love that they've got these full-colored jumpers, and that for Gryffindor, they've gone more subdued than just having the garish bright red. Instead, they went maroon. You're lining up a potentially funny gag for Ron, who absolutely hates that color. I'm not a big fan of the coloration of the ties, but it is what it is. I probably won't notice it that much. The costume is looking good for the most part, although to tell you the truth, I'm more eager to see what the sets and interiors are going to look like. Plus the costumes for most of the adults who won't be in school uniforms. That's going to be the bigger test, I think, as to what the tone and feel of the show will be like. And speaking of which, as I was writing this, they released a still of Nick Frost as Hagrid. Now, when he was first announced, you may remember I wasn't all that excited by the prospect. His recent turn as Gobber was lacking in warmth, comedy, and heart in the live-action adaptation of How to Train Your Dragon, and that also has me a bit on edge about what his Hagrid might be like, although I will admit that a lot of that has to come down to the actual writing of the show. Robbie Coltrane just had this warmth and gentleness in his eyes that I'm worried this version's going to lack, which will in turn impact a lot of those early scenes with him and Harry. Apart from all of that though, the hair and the costume, they're pretty good and give those Hagrid vibes, although he does look really styled up here if you get me. OG Hagrid's so unkempt, meanwhile this dude's got this nicely swept hair and a bushy and yet managed and groomed beard, as opposed to the mess that was film Hagrid. I'm not sure I like that because it does end up looking a bit more fake, although it might look slightly different when it's actually put to screen beyond just showcasing a still. Now we get to catch up on some of the casting that we missed out on, starting with the casting for Draco Malfoy, who's being played by Lox Pratt. I will say that simply looking at his headshot, yeah, this kid looks like a Draco Malfoy. As with most of these child actors, I've never ever seen him in anything before, but apparently he's also got a lead role for the BBC Lord of the Flies adaptation, so I figure he must be decently talented. I'm actually pretty excited to see how this goes. That being said, from what I understand, this kid's like, 13 years old? Probably going to be around 14 when shooting ends for this season. This is another example as to why they need to be more prompt for the greenlighting and producing of future seasons, because eventually these kids are going to age hard when they're supposed to be 17, 18 at the very maximum by the end of the story. Then again, Stranger Things has gotten away with 33-year-old Joe Keery playing a teenager for a very long time, so I suppose there's that as well. I also hope we don't get to that annoying point where we're years and years between seasons like some other HBO properties. What is it for House of the Dragon at this point? I think they're filming season 3 right now. So that means we probably aren't going to get another season until 2027, a whopping 3 years after the release of season 2. And that's certainly one way to kill the hype completely and utterly. Let's hope they keep things rolling here at a steady pace, although I also read earlier that apparently they're going into season 2 filming relatively quickly. They'll wrap up on season 1, have what is described as a short break, and then be right back into it for season 2 according to the trades, but no idea how accurate that is. Coming up to Aunt Petunia, we have Belle Powley, who I only know from my childhood when she was in MI High, which is an absolute classic of the 2000s. Oh my god. Seems like they're going to have more age-accurate casting this time with her. Like I said though, only know her from MI High close to 20 years ago now. So I can't speak for her quality as an actress, but she seems to get steady work based on her filmography. The dude for Vernon, Daniel Rigby, man, he looks like a Vernon to me. It sounds harsh. But hey, sometimes that's just how it is. And it's gotten him a job, so there you go. Then we come to Molly Weasley, played by Catherine Parkinson, who once again, don't really know all that much about. She has red hair though, so that's good enough for me. I think she was in Doc Martin back in the day, but that's only from briefly seeing my parents watching it. She did have a voice part in That Christmas, which I loved from last year, but apart from that, I'm not all that familiar with her work. Pavati Patel's being played by Alessia Leone. In the books, the Patil sisters are supposed to be identical twins, right? I'm guessing they're just going to have her double up when they get to that point in the story. I mean, I suppose they might go the fraternal route again, just like in the movies, and they haven't announced the casting. But since they are trying to make this book accurate, I figured they might be going the identical route.
It's very lucky for the producers that you do look so similar.
Yeah, no, it is, yeah.
Then we come to Leo early as Seamus Finnegan. No idea if he's still the same age as the headshot that's going around, but holy shit, this kid is ridiculously cute. Once again, I've not seen him in anything, so I can't speak for his quality as an actor, but they cast him for a reason, right? Over to an adult actor again, we have Bertie Carvel as Cornelius Fudge. A lot younger than I was expecting, but I'm not fussed. One, because he was great as Tony Blair in The Crown, and so I'm confident he'll do well here. And two, the worst parts of my Harry Potter fandom in the last decade or so has been seeing all my Harry Potter goats dropping like flies. We're already getting an older Dumbledore, and so I'm happy a lot of these castings are on the younger side to avoid that sort of thing happening so soon, because it is such a depressing, childhood-crushing feeling. He's also in A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms for HBO, so he really is getting a lot of work recently. Next up, we have Rory Woolman as Neville Longbottom. Huge contrast between this version and the Matthew Lewis version. Probably one of the biggest differences for casting the kids so far. He's done a little bit of work before, but nothing I've seen, so I'm really curious as to what direction they're going to take this character, to tell you the truth. For Dudley Dursley, we've got Amos Kitson, who apparently is debuting in this show. His first acting role. Whew! Talk about nail-biting pressure. His first job, and he has to follow up from that truly top-tier performance from the films. Yikes, couldn't be me. Seems like they're going more book accurate here with the blonde hair as well. Louise Brealey as Madame Hooch, sign me up. Loved her in Sherlock, and although I've not seen her in anything much since those days, I'm still pretty pumped. I mean, granted, Madame Hooch isn't in the story for very long, but still, it's exciting and nostalgic nonetheless. Another fairly massive name then joins the cast with Anton Lesser. Dude's been hitting all the big franchises since his turn as Qyburn in Game of Thrones, hasn't he? He's been in The Crown, Andor, now this. What's next? The MCU maybe? Lord of the Rings? Regardless, the dude has such an ominous look about him and this perfect soft-spoken voice. Great casting for Ollivander, 100%. This might be some of the best casting in the show, period. Back to the largely unknown child actors for a second, we have Sienna Musa, and she's going to be Lavender Brown. I tell you what, it must be so weird for the casting people when they're picking these actors too. You think they have to take into account the future storylines when they're casting? That'd make me feel so icky if it was my job. Then the final name I think I've got here, but obviously there's going to be more, they just haven't been announced yet, is Johnny Flynn as Lucius Malfoy. Once again, an actor I've only really seen in one or two things. He did a voice role for Scrooge: A Christmas Carol, which was a decent enough movie, but went completely under the radar. Then he was also pretty great in the adaptation of Emma, so I'm actually rather confident he's going to be really great in the role, although I do wonder how much he's actually going to be in during the course of season 1. Is he just going to have a background part, or are they actually going to have some storylines between characters that would happen off page just to further build up the world. Just when I think my hype for this show's died off and gone dormant again, something comes out and it sucks me right back in. For all I know, this is going to be a train wreck show that gets everything completely wrong, but every time there's a post, announcement, or scrap of news, it feels like they're working so hard to make this as good as it possibly can be. So I think going forward, I'm actually rather optimistic about what the quality is going to be like, although I do have to say, it's going to feel like a very long way to get to 2027. That being said, when the time comes, that main theme is going to hit like crack. Hell, when the trailer comes out, it's going to hit like crack, or even just a short teaser, or just more photos. Look at me here, just a junkie at the moment, begging for my next hit. What can I say? I know what I want. With all that being said though, these have been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What do you think of all the casting news we've had? What about the photos that we've seen of the costumes? Did you like them? Hate them? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.